So yeah, you would get to work and the project, you would have what's called a stand-up meeting where you get your whole team, everyone on the team on the project, and kind of go through each one. And generally, so I should say this, and what we maybe did before was kind of, we did more planning out. So you might have a meeting together with your team where it's a bigger meeting where you kind of maybe plan out what you did for what you're going to do for like the next week or the next month. That's kind of referred to as a sprint in the agile world. So sprints can be a week, they can be 2 weeks, they can be a month. But usually before a sprint, you get together and you kind of figure out what you're going to build or what you're going to do for that determined amount of time, which is kind of what we just did before the break. But then on the day-to-day level, you're going to do what's called a stand-up meeting, where you get together with your team at the morning or in the afternoon or whenever. And it's just kind of a review of, hey, what are you working on today? What did you work on yesterday? Did you have anything that's blocking you? That kind of stuff. It's just a time to get together with your team to kind of plan out the day. These are meant to be quick. They should be like 10, 15 minutes. And you just kind of go through each one pretty quickly. And you're like, okay, here's what I'm working on today. Here's what I worked on yesterday. So I might say something like this, like if it was my turn, I'd be like, oh, well, yesterday I set up, let's pretend it was yesterday. Yesterday I set up the Rails project. And today I think I'm going to be working on the back end for the available feature. And then maybe there's another developer who's like, yep, and I'm today going to be working on the available front end, and so forth. So it's just a way you can communicate. And then if I'm like the available backend person, I can tell the front end person, hey, you know, this is what the data is going to look like. I should have this done in 4 hours or something like that. And the front end person would be like, sweet, well, you know, if that's how if this is the API call and this is how I'm going to get back the data, I can get pretty far along with this feature. So cool. Let's meet up, or let's like Slack me, hey, backend person, Slack me when you're done with this so I can hook it up, kind of that thing. Cool. Some other things. So let's just pretend I'm going to move this backend one back. Some other things we might want to do, and this is something you can come up with your team, but maybe when I move something to the in progress, there might be a little bit of like a checklist I want to go through before I move a card from like the on deck to in progress. Some things I might want to make sure is that like the task and requirements are cleared. The second thing you probably want to do if you're working with a team is add your name to the card. So I could come in here in Trello, you know, add my name here, boom. So now like, it's like, oh, James is working on this feature. And then there's like some GitHub stuff I could do, you know, make sure there's no pending changes and pull from master. And something we're going to start doing now with this project is we're going to use branches. So I'm starting this new feature. So, okay, something I'd want to do is, yeah, let's do a poll. Make sure I get all of the changes, and then now I can check out to a branch. And I'll just name this branch kind of what the feature is. I spelled that way wrong, but oh no, that's way wrong. Anyway, so I create a branch in GitHub, and now I'm kind of ready to start working on it. Something else I maybe should have thrown into this backend card that would have been nice to have is just the story for that feature, which is just this one's story. So it's like, oh, okay, I want an available page. I need to get all the real estate agents and should display the price, number of beds, bathroom, square footage, street, city, and zip. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a GET request to API properties, and I'm going to send back this data. Cool. So I have that planned out. I kind of know what I need to do. And now, I have my steps. So we've done 0. We've kind of decided how we're going to get back the data. So now I want to go into figure out the SQL. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to open up SQL Electron. Is it already open somewhere? Let's open it up. So now I actually, well, how could I be? What do I need to do though? I forgot one very important step with all of these backend ones. It's kind of funny, I forgot this step.
Routes.
Routes, I kind of have this set up a route controller method. That's kind of that one. There's even one more that's a little more basic, especially I want to figure out some custom SQL. What do I need to do? Like, what do I need to test
some models?
Yeah, I need some models. I need some data. So that's my bad. It's probably pretty important, right? O.1. I do. And this one should actually probably, I think this is, who was it? Ash was maybe, this is what he meant when he said like set up database. I'm going to say set up models and seeds. So that is definitely, something I should do. And that might be something I would want to do after I figured out my lucid chart. I could maybe do my models step by step, but since we have like this, since we have our database schema, I should just go set these all up since I know what they're all supposed to look like and the associations, and just do the seeds file. I think that's going to be an easier way to do that. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to check back out to master. I'm going to do a get checkout model. Let's just do DB setup. So I'm going to create a new branch called DB setup. So now I have a master branch, I have an available backend, and I have a DB setup branch. All right. So this is where I'm going to set up all my models. So what I'm going to actually do is I want to just find that lucid chart from my Trello. Kind of just want these side by side. Because this lucid chart, this is going to be a nice way. This is going to tell me how to create my models. So I have a Rails G model agent, which has a first name, a last name, email, and a phone. Screen share is in my way. All right. Cool. So there's my agent model. I can do a Rails G model buyer. First name, last name, email, max price. This one needs to be a float. Cities. So something I decided to do with cities is my buyer is going to have a cities, like the desired cities, but I'm just going to store that as text because I'm just going to treat that like in my Rails project, I'll treat it as an array, but in my database, I'll just store that as text. And I have an agent ID, that's a foreign key, so that's going to be an agent belongs to. Okay, then I can do a Rails G model property. It's going to have a price. It's going to be a float. It's going to have sold. It's going to be whether or not this property is sold. That's going to be a Boolean. You're going to have a sold price. Go ahead and be a float. You can have beds. It can be an integer. You can have baths. It can be an integer. Footage. That can be an integer. And an agent that it belongs to. Let me go Rails G model address. It's going to be it's going to have a street, city, and a zip. These are all going to be strings. And it's going to have a property that it belongs to. I'm going to migrate my database and then look at it. And then if it's right, I'll slack it out. I'll slack out these Rails G model command. So I'm going to migrate my database. Just kind of want to make sure that, where's my code? That my schema looks all right. So I have this addresses table. That's got my property ID, which is my foreign key. I have the agents table. Agents doesn't belong to anything, so that's fine. Doesn't need a foreign key. I have my buyers table. That's the cities text. Has the agent ID, which is the foreign key. I have this cats table from the starter project. I have this properties table that has the agent ID. No, it can't be false, so it's looking good. One other thing I'm going to do is, and I just want to slack this out, is the seed data. All right. Sorry. Okay. Let me just make sure this works, and then, yeah, I can slack this out. So I'm going to go to my seeds file. Let's get rid of that. So what I'm doing here, and actually I'm going to switch this up a little. I'm going to because we're going to want to eventually try to use a lot of data, but for now, I'm just going to make this less big. So here's a seeds file that what we do is we have this just a dummy array of cities. And then 10 times I go create some agents. I hope I have, do I have Faker installed? I do, okay, cool. So I go create 10 agents just using Fakers. And then inside of here, so for each agent, I go through and create 5 buyers. And just use some Faker data, use a random number for the max price. For the cities, I just sample a certain amount of cities from my city array. So that just returns, some at random, could be 0, could be 3. It just goes through the city arrays and returns a random amount of those cities. And then once again, for all of my agents, 5 times I'm going to go create some properties with some fake data like random number of bedrooms and bathrooms, random price, sold, it's going to be random, and so forth. So let me seed this. Unknown attribute phone for buyer. Okay, I guess my buyer's not going to have a phone number. That's fine. I'm just going to get rid of that. I need to do a real-estate seed. Undefined method, create address. Oh. So let's look at this error because I forgot a step, but let's try to see what's going on. So create method or create address. Let's see if I can get a line for this. Seeds file line 54. Create address. And let's see if it, any ideas on what's going on here or what step I forgot to do. So I'm using this property, an instance of the property class, and I'm trying to call it this create address method. When I set up my associations, what did I forget? I did it in my day. I checked my schema, right? My associations are there, but where else do I need to add some association stuff? In all of
Model.
Yeah, in all of my models. So I need to go to my agent. So an agent has many buyers, has many properties. Right. And then if we go to, so then I need to go to my properties. That belongs to agent. Now this also, so we haven't, I don't think we've done a has one. This has one, so our property has one address. If I go look at the address model, this belongs to property. So that was filled out for us. But the pluralization here is important because that's how you would say it has one address. If it was a has many, it'd be has many addresses. One thing I want to do in my buyer model. So this belongs to agent, but remember how our buyer model also has that cities column, which is text, but I want to treat that like an array in my code. So I'm actually just going to serialize this cities as a array. So let's try this again. I'm actually just going to, that might have created some data. So I'm just going to drop my database, recreate it. So I'm going to start fresh and I'm going to reseed. Okay. So that worked. But I'm getting, this isn't an error. It's a, I believe it's a warning. Okay, right here. Line 40, passing true ratio, whatever, Boolean is deprecated. So if I go to like seeds, line 40. Seeds. Like it doesn't like this faker, it doesn't like this line. It's working, it's not broken, right? It's just giving me a warning. Do you know what deprecated means? Have we gone over this?
I don't think so.
Deprecated is, and I've been getting this error for a while, so it's funny because it's still working. But deprecated's like, hey, we're getting rid of this feature or this method or whatever. So we're not maintaining it. In a new release, it might be gone, but we're going to like have it there for a while because your code's probably using it. So we want to give you like a window. So with that, why I would maybe want to change that is without warning, you know, some time from now is they could totally just get rid of this. Faker could get rid of this function. They're just being nice and giving me a warning and saying, hey, you know, this is might happen in the next couple of years. So let's replace it. This is just like a little bit of a brain teaser. I have this sold, which I really just want to be true or false. Don't really need to use faker for that. It's easy enough to come up with, because I think what this is saying is like, you know, have this be true like 1/3 of the time and have it be false 2/3 of the time. So if I wanted to do that, I want to do something, I want to create a function or do something here that's going to be true 1/3 of the time and false 2/3 of the time. Any ideas how to do that?
Maybe you could like create an array of like true and two falses, and then like randomly select one of those.
Yeah, that would work. That's fine. I don't know, rules. True. There you go. False. Like that would work. Do sold equals bools and then dot sample. Yeah, I think that's a great way. I could do like, could take a random number, you know, that's going to give us like 1 through 3. Like, does that equal 1? true, false, you know, that could be another way, but let's keep it this way. That's fine. So let's do this one more time and do a Rails DB drop, migrate, and then a seed. Maybe I could also step into my console. So something that is also like you're going to want to start doing, especially when you get into your portfolio project, is you're going to want to test your code. Like make sure what you did just worked. Like we just created a whole bunch of models. Let's go and kind of do a little testing. So I created 10 agents. So, and each agent has 50 buyer or 5 buyers. So I should have 50 buyers. I should have 50 properties. I should have 50 addresses. But I can just come in here, do like agent.all. Just kind of look at it, looks good. I could do like agent.all.first. You know, maybe store that to a variable. Like a.properties, because an agent should have properties. Cool, that's working. A.buyers. That's working. A.properties. .first. .address, because a property has one address. I should be able to grab that address. Should be able to go back, grab that address's property, which is the same thing. Should be able to grab that property's agent. So, I mean, it's kind of doing a circle, but so let's do like our buyer.first.
We only did address as a second table just to get experience with like joining, but we could have just had that as a key value pair in property, right?
Yeah, I think, and that would have made sense. So this is, yeah, it's just going to like separate it. So we have to do more joining. I think this is also like not, this would also be a fine to separate it into its own data, because you could maybe, what you would maybe do, like, instead of like you could say like a property has like one city, and then that way you could just, I don't know. I think if I were doing this, I would just throw all the data in the property table, to be honest. That's how I do it. But this will give us a little practice. Yeah, joining stuff. But yeah, notice when I do buyer.first.cities, that's giving me that array of cities. So, but it's being stored as text in my database. So that's just a little bit of like a test. Something else I could do just really quickly. And let me actually psych all this out. So, and just as you're running these, if you want to, when you do run these, creating these models, it is important that you run them in the right order. And what I mean by that is, so we're going to want to create our agent model first before we create our like buyer or property, because we need to have that model created. Where is it? Where are these commands? I don't have to read. See if I can find these. Okay. Because like, say for instance, with this buyer command, we have this agent belongs to. If you haven't created that model yet, or you try to, if you run this RailsG model buyer before you run the agent one, you're going to get an error that agent doesn't exist. It's just a little side note that these do, if something depends on something, you need to run them in the right order. So for instance, with like the address model, I need to create my property model before I create my address model. So let me give you this one. You this one. All right, and then the seeds file. Something else I could do just really quickly, just since this is more part of the setup, is this doing that? Is to generate my controllers. I don't need to fill them out right now. I could get like a agents controller. A buyer's controller. I don't think I need a addresses controller, so I'm just going to do these three. And I'm going to append them with API or prepend them. So I have my API agents, API buyers, and API properties. Cool. That one's a little hard to test because it's not really functional, but I could at least go into my controllers. See that I have like an API agents controller buyers. Maybe even just go into my routes. Oh, I have my namespace there, so that's cool. So yeah, so I have those controllers there. So I think as far as like this database setup feature, I can go ahead and do a, well, I mean, might also just want to do a quick little check on all these files, because I'm getting ready to push this change up. And as we get as you get more experience and as you start working with bigger projects, I think it's nice to go through and check all of your changes. Make sure that, you know, all of the things you put there, you actually want there, you want those to be there. And it can be, a lot of these are auto-generated, so I can kind of go through these quick. But I'm just making sure there's, you know, nothing here I didn't want to add, I didn't add unintentionally. So that looks good. So I can do a git add dot git commit -m. Let's call this init setup. Your email matters. Oh, okay. I think that's fine. So now what I want to do is I want to push this up. But I'm not going to push this up to master because we're going to be using branches. I'm going to do a git push origin, not master, but just whatever I call this branch, DB setup. Cool. So that now creates a new branch on GitHub. And you can just maybe watch. So if I notice on my GitHub, like that automatically reloaded. So there's that branch I just created. So now I can go look at, like on GitHub, I have my master branch and I have a DB setup branch. And with this one, I'm actually ready to compare and do a pull request. So I can click on that button. Here I might leave a message about what I did. So I set up all models, controllers, stubbed out. If I'm using Trello, here's another thing where we can kind of get this trail going of work. Let's say that there's maybe more on this. So here's my setup models and seed Trello card. I could take this Trello card and in my GitHub, throw that there. So in this pull request I'm creating, I add that there. I'm just adding some documentation here. And then I create what's called a pull request. Now I know we talked about pull requests, but it was kind of brief. So what this is doing is, let's say me, James, I was working on that database setup feature. I got it done, I kind of tested it, and now I'm ready to push it to master. But now I can no longer, we're going to have it set up in your portfolio projects where you can't push to master. You're going to have to push up to a branch and create a pull request. So that's what I just did. I did my work, I tested it, and then I pushed it up to this branch. And then once I thought it was ready, then I create this pull request. And what you would do in probably like a job situation is I might have this task, set up models that's in progress. And I might now throw this, so that was in progress, but now that the pull request is done, I might throw that to the QA team or ready to be reviewed. And then someone else would either they'd maybe clone down this or pull down this branch and test it. Or what we might do is we'll have you might send it to another student or to a TA, and they go through and they look at what you did. They kind of review your code. They want to make sure all the changes are what they are okay to go to master. They could someone else, not me, could be like, oh, why did you do this? And start reviewing it. Then you could finally resolve it. It's kind of hard to do this on my own because I am my own GitHub user, but once it's done, they'll finish the review, they'll approve it. I can approve my own, and then they would merge it. So me, James, I create the pull request, but someone else is going to merge it on your team. And then you can delete that branch if you want, or you can keep it there. So now when I go to my real estate app, that branch is gone because I deleted it, but now master has all of the changes. So if I do a git checkout master on my computer, I'm not going to have those changes. So what I would want to do is I could pull from origin master. I have changes on the master. Okay. Just undo those. Let's close all these files. Okay. What are the changes on my gemlog file? All right, I'll just add it. Which one did we use? I forget. Is it the rebase faults? I don't want to rebase. Pull origin master. Cool. I can merge. Cool. And now I have those changes on my master branch on my computer. Cool. So that's now done. So remember how I created that other branch? Git branch. I have this DB setup branch. Let's go ahead and check out to that one. Git checkout. I don't need to do the -b sign because I already have the branch. The -b is for like, it's gonna create a new branch and check out to that branch. If I have the branch already, I just give it the name, which is DB setup. Oh wait, sorry, that's not the one I wanted to check out to. Git checkout. I want to go to that available. What's the name of it? Okay. Branch. I forgot the name of it already. It is available. Okay, available backend. So git checkout. Available backend. So now I'm in that branch I first started to work on. If I go to VS Code, I want that to be changed. Notice how in my like controllers, I don't have my controllers. If I go to my schema, I don't have any of those changes I made. So a couple ways I could do this. I could do a git pull origin master. That would pull from GitHub. So that's going to pull from the master on GitHub. I could also do a git merge master because my master on my computer is up to date. So that would take that would merge what's on master into this branch. This stupid gem file is going to cause some problems. That's just doing it. All right, so sorry, I'm having that. Okay. Oh my gosh, this stupid gemlog file. I want this one. Okay.
If you were to do the merge instead of the pull, is the difference like that your changes on your branch would also go onto the master, or are they just the exact same thing?
It's more, okay, so the git merge master, it's what I'm saying is and this has nothing to do with GitHub. I'm saying take what's on my master branch and merge it to what's on whatever branch I'm on right now, which is the available backend. So that's just on my computer. So that's going to take what's ever on my master branch and merge it to this branch. If I do a git pull origin master, that's going to pull from GitHub, from the master branch. So it's I don't want to like get in like, it's not don't worry about like specifically what's going on with the state of my app. It's more importantly, know what these commands are doing. Like this is just going to go up to master, grab master on GitHub and merge it to this branch. Where the git merge master, that's going to get the master branch on my computer on Git and merge that to this branch. Which in this case I could do because I just had updated right here my master branch on my computer. I pulled from master. So I know right now that they're in the same state. But that's not like my master branch on my computer and my master branch on GitHub are not necessarily always in the same state. So like they're not connected. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So yeah, and I can come in here right here. So now I'm on this available branch, so I can do a git status. So I'm on this branch. I can come in, let's just make a simple change here since let's just say I make a change on this branch. I can do a git add commit -m change. I really need to see that warning. Okay, and then I can do a git push origin. I'm just gonna name it. I can call this whatever. I'm saying, hey, git push origin. That's just saying, hey, push up to this repo because this origin is this repository. And then I'm going to give it the name of the branch. But I'll just match. I mean, I could call this Y. Does not like it. Git push. I guess it does want me to push this name up. I mean, I'll say this, I thought I could, but I guess not. But you would never want to have these have different names because that's going to be very, very bad, like confusing wise. But yeah, I guess it's not, doesn't let me just do some random name. So what I'm saying is push to origin. Like I'm on this branch, but push to a branch on GitHub. So I'm on this. So look at the syntax highlighting right here. Like this is referring to the repo on my computer, like the Git. That's the repo on my computer. So I'm saying, hey, push this repo to GitHub, to this branch on GitHub. It's going to have the same name. And now on GitHub, probably need to refresh. Oh, that's my starter project. Now I have this branch on here that, so if on master, I look on GitHub, there's the README. It doesn't have that change. But if I go to the branch on GitHub, that does have the change. So I pushed it up. And now I don't have to do this pull request right now because the feature's not done, but I can still push up to this branch. And someone else on my team could pull down from my branch just by doing a git pull, origin, not master, but origin available BE. But if I did, I'm just kind of doing some weird stuff here. If I did a git checkout master and did a git merge available BE branch. Oh, that's stupid gemlock. Now on my master branch on my computer, it has that change. But GitHub, the README on the master branch in GitHub does not. I don't open maps. It's not there. But if I did a git push origin master, then it would have that change. I think the key is you just gotta realize you have a repo on your computer and then you have a repo on GitHub. The way they are connected is by this remote. I have a remote called origin and that links to my GitHub repository. Cool. Let's see here, it's 12. I think this is a good time for a little break. Because if you're not up to date with this code, you could, and let me throw it, you could just clone this repo down. So it's pretty much just the setup stuff so far. But I'm also going to check out back to this branch before. Cool. So yeah, let's just take a quick break. Let's come back at 12:10. And we'll see if we can get this back end feature done. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, so if I go back to Trello, yeah, and we're going to my back end. So cool. We were wanting to figure out how to get the SQL call, but I forgot to actually create some data to work with. So now that we have our data, now we can actually go figure out how to get this data back in SQL. So to do that, we open up SQL Electron. And so that server we created yesterday, we're just going to connect to that. And then I'm going to find the development database I just create, like of my project name. Remember how I renamed that in the database YAML with the dashes and the underscore? The real estate yo W21. So that's the name of that database. So I can click on that to connect to that. And, you know, I could try doing something like this, select star from buyers. And there's my 50 buyers. I could, you know, select star from agents. Select star from properties. And select star from addresses. So there's my buyers, there's my agents, there's my properties, and there's the addresses. Cool. So those are all my 4 tables. But if I look at my card, remember, this is what I want. This is the data that I told my front end person I was going to send back. Let's comment that out. Like I want to grab the price, beds, bath, square footage, city, street, zip, first name, last name, email, agent. So I don't need my buyers table because this doesn't have anything to do with buyers, but these 3, all of the data that I'm getting from this one object here is coming from these 3 tables. So what I'm going to want to do is, I don't want to have this be 3 separate queries. I want to just join all this data into this one query that returns an array of this. So I can leave these down here just so I can kind of see my agent's properties and addresses on their own. But I'm going to write another query up here. So let's just do, I'm going to grab my properties.id from properties. Let's just start simple. So here's my query. I'm selecting the properties ID from properties. So let's say I want to grab the address ID, or let's do the agent ID. So I'm going to just call this a.id as, since I have 2 agents, I'm going to alias this one, or sorry, since I have 2, I'm trying to grab 2 IDs, I'm going to alias this as agent ID. So what I'm going to do next in this query is I'm going to join my properties table and my agents table. I'm going to alias this as a, because I'm saying a.id. So I'll alias this. Now remember, my property belongs to a agent. So I'm going to join this on where my agent.id equals the property dot agent underscore ID. So right now I'm describing the agent ID and properties ID. Let's execute this one. So notice I'm getting back this agent ID a couple times because my agent has many properties. Agent 1 has property ID 1. Agent 1 has property with the ID 2. Right? And this should go with our seeds file because I think our agents should have 5 properties each. So agent 1 has 5 properties. Agent 2 has 5 properties. Agent 3 has 5 properties and so forth. Cool. So let's also grab, we need some address data, right? So I'm just going to call this ad.id as address ID. Now I need to join my address table. So I'm going to do another inner join addresses. This one I called AD, so I'll do this as AD. And this one I'm going to join on, so where my address.id equals the properties dot address underscore ID. Oh, wait, sorry, I got this reversed. Properties.id, because my address belongs to a property, so my address property property underscore ID equals the property ID. It just so happens that our address ID is going to match our property ID, but they are different. It's because of how we see it in our database. But now I'm getting the IDs from 3 of my tables. So I properly join them. So let's grab the other stuff. So I want my price. So I want the price, I want the beds, I want the baths. That's all on my properties. I want, there needs to be a comma. The city, so let's pull that from my address. The address.city, the address.zip, and the address.street. I mean, I can test this, make sure. See, now I'm getting closer to this data. So I'm getting my property ID, getting the price, beds, bath, city information. So I have the agent ID. That's not really useful. What I really want is the agent, first name. agent last name and agent.email. This is getting pretty big. I wonder if I can do this. So I can read all this. Cool. So now I'm getting the first name, last name, and email. Now notice that I'm going to get, there's going to be duplicates with this agent information because my agent has many properties. So there's going to be in this, when I send back this data, there's going to be duplicate agent data, which is fine. Leave the front end to figure out how to deal with that. Cool. So, and then the next thing we need to do is we just need to grab, oh, we have this city and zip, right? Yep, we have the city zip. So I think we actually have everything right here. One thing I do want to show, because remember this was, we want to grab all the properties that are not sold. So if I like throw in sold here, just to show this, if I execute it now. So we have some that are sold. We don't want these included in this query. So let's go ahead and filter those out. Where sold is not true. There's this weird, there's this sign, this is not. I'm going to do properties. Sold is not true. So now that filters out all the sold properties. So now sold is going to be false. I don't really need that in the query, but just wanted to test. And then just we wanted to order by, I don't know, agent ID. They're like that just because of how we seeded our database, but you know, in the real world data, it might not be sorted. So ordering by agent ID, this is just going to have the effect of like clumping up our agents together. So now they're all like all of the agents data, like they're going to be by each other. So it's kind of like sorting it. Cool. So there is that query. So what we did is we've used some joins. We've gotten data from 3 different tables. And this is the nice thing about with SQL, you know, we can create these custom SQL calls in our Rails app to get back, you know, specific data that how we want our app, like, or how we think it might be good to use. So, and I can Slack this one out. So now that we have our, like, we have this working in SQL, well, now we need to do the next step of hooking this up with the Rails. So that's kind of like these 2 steps. We need to do a route controller method API for this call and then set up the custom SQL. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my properties controller. And let's go to our routes first. Let's define our route for this. So I'm going to do a GET request to properties. And that's going to take me to my, we'll just have this go to the properties index method. So there's my properties method. If I go to my properties controller, I can now define this index method. Now, instead of doing my property.all, I'm going to do a render JSON. Let's call this property.available method.
Why don't you build out all of the routes, even if you're not going to use them all? Like, why do you just pick and choose the ones that you're going to use? Is that going to slow down things or confuse people?
It's more, why would, like, I don't want to have a route defined that doesn't do anything, because that would, what would that do? If I had a route defined that no one used and I didn't define in my server, like, I mean, it'd still give a 404 error, but it's just, I don't know. It's kind of like, why would I like define a method if I never plan to use it? That's like the answer. It's like, well, why would I? I'll just kind of direct it back.
I think she was asking about in your routes.rb file, why you're specifying only having an index or like a update instead of just leaving it at resources.
For like my cats?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that's what she was referring to.
Yeah, like it just seems like more typing to get all of these different routes rather than just doing a resources and like having the routes even if you're not going to use them.
Like, wouldn't have been putting resources properties have still given you an index that you could have used?
Yeah, I could have done a resources properties and that would have gave me this method, but it would have gave me 7 other routes that I have no intention of doing. So yeah, the answer is, it's like, I shouldn't define a route if I'm not planning on using it. That's the simple answer. It's like, and for it to say like, well, this is less typing, that's not the reason. Like, this is good because like when we did that cats, I only wanted to do those 2 methods. I mean, a lot of the time, like if it's like a hackathon and, you know, whatever, just, yeah, define them all. But yeah, I only plan on doing this. I mean, I might add more methods, you know, for this, but yeah, I have no plans on doing like create or update or delete a property. So that's why. And it's just like, you know, when I go to like localhost 3000 rel info routes, like I only want to see the routes that I'm actually going to use. I don't want to have like all these. I mean, you can kind of almost see this already when you do go to localhost 3001 rails. There's all these, I mean, it's already messy enough because there's all these default routes that Rails is giving us. So yeah, that is that. It's just the code, keeping your code clean. So, so in my index method, we're not doing property.all. I'm doing property.available. So remember, if I'm calling it on the class, this is a class method. So I now need to go define this available method in my property class. So my property model, so property.rb. Now I'm going to define this as a class method. So I need to use the self keyword, available end. And, you know, I could maybe just do a little test right here. So I have this available method that's just going to return the string working. So if I go to localhost 3001 API / available. No route. Oh, wait, it's properties. Sorry, I call it properties. So I do my API call, API / properties, that calls that available method, which is for now is just returning that string available, or sorry, working. And one of the nice things about using this SQL Electron is now I can take this SQL code that I know is working. I'm just gonna, for now, just paste it here. This is not, proper Ruby is breaking, but what I can do inside of here is I can now use some Rails helpers. So there's a select method. So something I kind of want to show you this. I'm going to do select, and I'm going to copy what's in my select, and I'm just going to paste that in there. And after doing that, I'm going to do a dot. I'm going to just do this on a new line just so it's a little more readable. I'm going to do a dot joins, do a string, and then I'm going to take this inner join. I'm just going to skip this from properties just to kind of show you that since I'm in the properties model, it's going to like assume like that from properties. Then I can do a dot where properties dot sold equals true. I can do a dot order. I'll copy this by ID. And I don't want the semicolon in there. And I'm just going to do a dot ID. So now I take in the SQL call, I'm using now some Rails helper like the select. So I can throw in the select string, I can do the joins, throw in like, so I have two join statements in here, two inner joins. I paste those both in there in one string, have a dot where order AID. I can slack, well, let me test this and then slack it out. So now when I do a GET request to that, I get back that data. I can now throw this in Slack. So now as far as like the backend is concerned and this ticket, where'd my Trello go? Like this available backend feature, I would, and this should be in progress right now. I've kind of done all these steps. I have this GET request that's returning this kind of data. I've tested it. Now this, I would say, is ready for to be QA reviewed. But really, before I push that to this card, I need to do this. I need to make sure my tasks are complete. That's done. Another thing I might want to do before I create a pull request is just pull from master. Just make sure I got any changes that anyone else on my team had made. And then the next step, I'm going to push up to my branch, create a pull request, and leave a link to the pull request in comments below. So I could just do a git. And once again, I think this is just a good way to do this is go through when you're adding your commits, just go through and add them in VS Code, just so you can see what changes you made. Just to make sure you want those changes there and that you didn't add anything unnecessarily. Like, for instance, I don't think I wanted to add this line right here. See how there's a new line? Like, nope, don't want to, like, why would I add that new line right there? That was a mistake. Save it, add it. Cool. So now I can do a commit -m. And now I can push up to this branch. Cool. Now inside of here, now that the feature is done, because I want this to go to master, I can now push this to master. I can, describe what I did. When you work at a company, they might have like a form to fill out here, like some steps. Fill out like what you did, changes you made, that kind of thing. Also, probably this is a good place to like throw in this Trello card a link to it. So I could create the pull request. And then at this point, I would ask someone else to review it. Like someone on my team or TA, they would go through, they would look at the changes, and then they could merge it. Cool. So now that's on master. So now it's been merged to master. And then on my GitHub, on my Git on my computer, I could do a git checkout master. So I could either do a git merge available to merge the changes from my branch on Git into master. But I kind of just like to go from GitHub. Once that's been merged, I'm going to pull from origin master. Now my master branch on Git has the changes. So now I'm all up to date. Cool. And then in Trello, this could, maybe that went through QA review, like they tested it, that's good. It's up on master, so now that like goes into this, hey, this is on master now, so it's complete. And now I can start working on this available front end one. So what are the steps before I start working on something? I want to make sure the tasks and requirements are clear. I can add my name to the card, pull from master, create a new branch, and begin working on this feature. So I think for this, like the requirements are pretty clear. It's not to say that I know exactly what I'm doing, but I have a pretty good, I know what I need to do. I might not know how to do it, but I know what I need to do. So I could do, once again, I just did this, but, so I'm starting a new feature. I'm going to pull from master. I'm going to check out to a new branch. I'm just going to call this available front end. And now I can start working on this branch, on this feature. How much time do we have? I think we'll stop here. It's but I kind of do want to, just in case if your homework, if you get to this point. So just kind of leading up to where this might be going. So here's how I'm getting this data back. You know, I have an array with like this data, but notice how I have like multiple agents in here. Like if I were to search like this Eric email, that's going to be in there 5 times. But in my UI, it's going to take a second. I don't want to show an agent 5 different times. I'm only going to want to show an agent and then once and then show all that agent's properties. So like I show the agent once and then I show all that properties. So what I'm trying to get at is there's kind of a mismatch between how your data is coming back and how you're going to want to throw it into your UI. So it becomes a little bit of a brain teaser, like a little bit of and this is, when I look at this step right here, it's kind of this normalized data section. But kind of don't have enough time to look at this whole thing. This is a hard thing to do. So we'll look at that tomorrow when kind of more fresh mind. We'll just look at that at the start of the day. But you can try to do it on your own, because one thing you could do, and this is once again part of this strategy for this front end. So do these separately. Figure out how to do the UI with hard-coded data. Like say, for instance, I wanted to, you know, create this UI. I don't have to worry about how I'm getting my data back. I need to worry about how I might want my data to look to map over that. So if I was like looking at this UI and I was thinking, how do I want my data to look? I'll just do this in the README. I think what would work well if I had in an array where I had like a agent name here and an email. So I have one object as an agent name and email. And then this had a properties key. That was an array of objects with all that property data like price, 100 beds, whatever, 2, and so forth. And that would be an array of those objects. So my data would start to look like this. Because I think this is something I could map over and create this UI if my data kind of had this structure. But my data actually, when I do my API call, it has this more flat structure. So this is kind of the normalizing part. So I want to go from this to that. But If you get to that point, try it on your own today. But let me go over the homework before we take lunch. I'm going to release it as well. Where are you? Okay, so this is, we're going to do a little Etsy app. I'm trying to kind of follow along with what we're doing because I know this is a harder lecture, but so we're going to do a little Etsy app where we're going to have a seller. Seller is going to have an email, a name. A buyer is going to have a name, max price, desired categories. That's kind of like the cities that we're using in this example. And a buyer is going to belong to a seller. Let me do this bonus. And then a product is going to have a price description belongs to seller. So you could kind of think of this like the seller is the agent, the buyer is the buyer, and the product is the property. So do a lucid chart with this, create a Trello board, try to break this up into stories and into tasks. That's kind of optional. We're not going to like grade you on that, but try to kind of get into that habit of, or gain that skill of breaking tasks up into tasks and then breaking those tasks up into tasks. So here's kind of some of the things we're going to want. Products page that displays projects grouped by the seller, like the available page. Category page that displays projects by the category. This is going to be like the cities page, and find product page. That'll be like the home page. So kind of the flow we're going to see for each feature. You're going to do the custom SQL, with some joins. You're going to get back the data. You're going to normalize it. You're going to render to React. And then there's going to be a bonus for adding a chart. So that's what the homework's going to be. And this one, I want you to work on this. I mean, these will be individual, we'll probably throw you into groups, but I want you to do these individually. I believe this will be the last project you'll work on by yourself, because next week we'll probably have you already start working on the portfolio project. So I'll give you one last solo assignment. Cool. Any questions? I'd merge that to master. Okay. So yeah, and this one you're going to have till Friday. This will be due on Friday. So you have some time to work on this. So I would say today, try to get your lucid chart, your backend set up, maybe your seed your database, maybe some Trello stuff. And yeah. Maybe try doing a backend call or two, or like I said, if you want to try doing the React stuff, that's cool too. Sweet. If that's it, we can take off. What time is it? Let's go ahead and meet back at 1:50 at the TA channel. Cool. Have a good day.
Thank you.